Hey guys, Palsteron here, and today let's talk about how I crafted the gear for my accuracy instacker. I will be putting instructions here on my screen, so if you already know how to craft everything, you don't need any context, then just screenshot this and go. And also, this is mostly how I personally crafted it. I made an exception for the cluster jewel because it's just very annoying the way I crafted it, but in my opinion better, so I'll still leave some notes there for a second way to craft it. But otherwise, yeah, most of these are not like perfectly researched. I just kind of went for it. A lot of these are pretty basic after all. But if you think there's a better way, then definitely go for that instead. Number one, 12-point clusters. These are the ones I get asked about the most. That's how they look like. They can get up to plus 12 to maximum energy shield minus only tier 2. Few important notes here. I used claw in my guide, so everybody thought they have to go claw, but dual wield or lightning are exactly the same. It needs to be idle level 84, and it also needs to have 12 points up here. So the three important mods that need to be on here before you even think about using a cluster. Do not use any clusters if you don't have at least a decent one. You want the 35% increased effect, plus 4 to all attributes, plus 8 to int. Now the int is a roll, it goes from 6 to 8, so you can divine it up. Hitting either maximum energy shield or increased damage, which is what I have here, are both just like the cherry on top, but they are not as important as the other three mods in any way, shape, or form. So what you want to start out with is a large cluster with 35% increased effect fracture. They're usually cheaper to make yourself, but if you don't want to gamble, just buy them. And you then want to use fundamental fossils, and you do this over and over and over until you get plus 8 intelligence and plus to 4 all attributes. Now in this case, I actually hit an interesting one. If you get plus to all elemental resistances and it's still early, you can also go for clusters like this and go for an early good helical. But if you don't know what that means, ignore that. But yeah, you just have to spam over and over and over. The average cost is, it's a 1 in 217, obviously, depending on whenever you're watching this. In this craft, you can also use Orb of Annulments pretty leisurely. Exalts are only 9C as of this recording, and Orb of Annuls are under 1 chaos. So let's say you finally hit it. If you have a shitty prefix, so let's, for example, you got, I don't know, plus to armor here. This is a settle for sure. Like, you can use this. This is very usable. I used 2 of these for quite a while, in fact. However, if, let's say, your prefix is open, what you want to use is a Foulborn Exalted Orb. These are quite expensive, but they're definitely worth it. And that's kind of it. Now, the way I crafted it, which a lot of people don't like to do, is this. I'll just put it on screen. I won't even describe it, but you're basically imprinting magic bases over and over. And with the new currencies, with the Foulborn Orb of Augmentation and the Foulborn Regal Orbs, I think this is the better way, but it also takes a little bit longer. And that's how you get these without a fracture. And what that means is you can actually synthesize this at the end, which I'm going to do eventually. But yeah, or probably right today, which means you can also give it implicits. Now then we have my helmet, which starts with fractured int, as you can see, and then I have an accuracy roll in the suffix, and the prefixes is just filled with good energy shield mods. First, quality is important. Whenever I made this helmet, it was towards the end and I was kind of broke, so I used a 20% one. You don't want to use a 20% one. This is a multiplier to your ES, so use like 26, 27, 28, whatever you can afford. Depending on the market, you'll probably have to make it yourself if it goes over 20 though, which is one of the reasons why I didn't, because I didn't want to get destroyed by fracturing orbs. So if there is like a cheap one with 20 quality on the market, then sure. Okay, so all you need to know about this craft is dense fossils. So one of your suffixes is locked, so the second suffix is going to be very easy, and the third one is going to be a crafted one. For the prefixes, you go for dense fossils. Dense make it way more likely that you hit energy shield mods and you just go over and over and over. Now, holding Alt while crafting will show you the tiers, so it's going to be hard to know if you hit something good just looking at your energy shield, and you're going to have to spam a lot, right? It could be a tier 1 hybrid and a tier 1 max. So you should really just hold your Alt button. Now, I went for triple tier 1. I kind of lucked into this one. I would have settled for tier 1, tier 1, tier 2, or maybe even tier 1, tier 2, tier 2. This also depends on your currency situation. And that will basically be the difference of you having like 430 to 530 ES. Suffixes, it really depends. If you already have a resistance, you can just craft on all attributes and call it a day. But if you don't have anything and it's really bad, what you need to do is prefixes cannot be changed, and then reforge attack. The only attack mods that you can hit are percentage accuracy and plus to accuracy. So just keep something there. This is a tier 1 roll, which is like I think a 1 in 7 or 1 in 8. But yeah, what I'm trying to say is the suffixes are very much up in the air. Plus to accuracy is not as good as it looks because you already get so much from plus to int. For the body armor, this is actually quite similar. However, I went for a essence fracture here. So I have the 58 to int. On helmet, it goes to 60, so that is fine. That's the normal mod. But on body armor, int only goes to 55. So what I chose to do is I spammed spites on different bases and then went for the fracturing orb myself. That is up to you. If you want to do that, you can also just go for 55. Another thing, and I forgot to mention this with the helmet as well, is look if you should sacred orb your bases. So if you hold alt, you can see at the very top under quality, energy shield 262 to 302. I have a 297. You can rearrange this with sacred orbs. It does very much matter, and they're not that expensive, or you just already look at it while you're buying. But yeah, after you have this base, it's the same thing. You spam dense fossils until you get a good roll over and over and over. You hold alt and you can kind of see the ranges. Now here it's actually a little bit more important that you look for good tiers. I have a tier 1, tier 2, tier 1. But if you want to save on anything, save on the helmet and not on the body armor, because on the body armor, it makes more difference because the energy shield goes like over 1,000 up to like 1,300. And at the end, definitely use a tailoring orb until you get explicit defense modifiers. It can be 6, it can be 8, it can be more. If you can handle the downsides, that's great. There's also one without a downside, but yeah, use some of them. They're definitely worth it. If you has no blue sockets, it's going to be even easier to make your colors. So yeah, just experiment around. And don't forget, if you hit a brick, you can always remove the enchant on the top if you don't have money for more tailoring orbs. Now let's talk implicits real quick. If I alt right here, you can see that I have a perfect mod, which is tier 6, and a grand mod, which is tier 3. How do you get it from tier 3 all the way to tier 6? First, if you are on a budget and you see somebody talk about Orb of Conflict, run, okay? These are the worst orbs in the game, the most cursed crafting you'll ever come across. But second, there is one rule to this. So whenever you have an Orb of Conflict, you have a chance to upgrade one of the modifiers and downgrade the other. However, there's another thing to it, which is you have a higher chance to upgrade the lower mod than the higher mod. So this is what you do. You roll with Grand currency, which is the tier 3 currency, the mod that you want, right? So you, for example, the less damage taken per int is incredible. So you roll until you get that on tier 3. Okay, good so far. Now what you have to do is apply the opposite to the other one with tier 4. These are a little bit more expensive. So then you'll have any tier 4 mod. You don't need to roll for anything. It just has to say exceptional. And what you've done by that is the one that you don't want is higher than the one you want. So you have more chance to hit on the Orb of Conflict. So now you have to spam Orb of Conflicts until you get higher. Now this is a little bit of a description here if you want to do it. And yeah, otherwise just stay at tier 3 for now. Then we have the crit jewels, which are super basic. Now for base, the Crimson is the best base, but the others are decent as well. It's just like a little bit of weighting off, depending on what the bases cost. You want 16 int fracture, maybe 15 if you're on a budget or whatever. And you want to spam deft fossils. So deft fossils, a lot of people are talking about, why can't I craft this with harvest? If you want multiple crit multi modifiers, it's just better than harvest bench. And they are quite cheap this patch. So there's just no reason not to go for defts. There is a regex to this, which I will put down below in the description. You can also go just look over it. I'm not 100% sure this one will fit. This is for Lightning Strike, just to be completely clear. So if you have a different build or different needs, this regex will not work for you. This regex basically stops when you have 2 decent crit multi modifiers, and then you can exalt, annul, whatever you want. Now then we have my boots, which is a pretty standard boots craft right here, but I'll give a little bit of context here. So first up, the Crusader Influence does nothing for you. The Redeemer Influence does something for you. It gives you elusive, and this one is very easy to get on because you can reforge crit into it. More to that in a second. But you only need the Crusader Influence if you already have the influence on your Simplex Amulet. So if you're still rocking like an Eyes of the Great Wolf for a budget version or an Astramentis for a budget version, then that will not be necessary because you will have Crusader Influence on your Helical, which will then get duplicated, and you're done. All you need is, in total, 2 Crusader items. This does count. Kalanda's Touch does count. So if you already have a ring with that influence, then you don't need that. But on the higher influence version, you have one from your Ami, and then you need a second one from Stormrider boots. You can also go Hunter Redeemer and make normal Tailwind boots, if you know what that means. But just make sure that you know that Onslaught is not that great. So the Onslaught suffix will be quite wasted because we already have so much attack speed. The way you can pick and choose is with these Exalted Orbs right here that add an influence. And then if you need a second influence, you will use the Awakener's Orb. All right, so here we are with the influences, and now all you need to do is spam Essences of Spite until you get 2 good resistances, and this is going to take you 50, 100, whatever. In my case, well, you should just settle for whatever resistances you need. In my case, I settled for tier 3, tier 2. You really don't have to put that much work into these boots until you go for like, I don't know, and you can look on PO Ninja, there's some absolutely wild boots, but yeah, those I'm not really looking for right now. After that, the prefixes are a little bit more interesting. So suffixes are done. Let's say you hit tier 2 Fire Res, tier 2 Cold Res. You can change it with Harvest, however you need to. Now you will need suffixes cannot be changed. However, this one costs 2 divines. You can just go for a certain beast, which is called Wild Bristle Matron. This one adds a random meta modifier to your item. And if there's only prefixes open, it can only give you a prefix meta modifier, which can only be suffix cannot be changed. So you save over 1 divine. After you do that, all you have to do is go to your Harvest bench and do Reforge Crit. The reason this works is because Elusive is the only crit modifier possible. So boom, you go here, Reforge Critical, suffix cannot be changed, boom. And now you have chance to gain Elusive. Now, most of the time, it's only going to be 4 mod, but sometimes it happens that you get an extra modifier. If that happens, rinse and repeat with the Wild Bristle Matrons, right? You can just reforge again until you have only chance to gain Elusive. It can happen, it's a 1 to 10 chance that your prefixes are bricked because you have 3 prefixes and the item is full. In that case, you will have to annul off and it's a 50-50. And if you brick, you'll have to do this step again. But it happens pretty rarely, but most of the time, this is how your item is going to look like afterwards. And when that happens, you do Wild Bristle Matron again, and you will have another suffixes cannot be changed, boom, and now you need to use the Exalted Veiled Orb. And this is the only real expensive step in this craft. If you hit the 50-50, then GG's. So for example, if I go right here, I go Veiled Exalted Orb, I have a 50-50, I want to hit the suffixes cannot be changed, boom, in this case, I screwed up. So you have to go again with what we just talked about, and so on and so on. But let's say I hit, your item will look like this then. You have the 4 modifiers and you have the veiled prefix. Now you want to craft a modifier. Let's see, where are they? Craft modifier, okay. And you want to block because that can then not appear. So you go life, doesn't really matter, crafted life, and then you unveil. Now it is basically guaranteed that you're gonna get a movement speed 1. It might even be guaranteed, I'm not 100% sure, but it's almost guaranteed for sure, like 90+%, and then you just take what you get. The worst one to get is the cannot be chilled because you're already ailment immune most likely, or you should be because you're Juggernaut, right? But there is Onslaught on Kill and there is movement speed while you haven't been hit recently. Those 2 are very, very strong. So it's a 2 and 3 to hit a relevant mod. So you have your movement speed and then you remove this and you can craft on evasion rating. For number 6, we have the Helical Ring, which Captain Lance made a very good video about how you craft them and gives a little bit more context on what they provide in the build. But if you're still at the more budget version and you need to cap your resistances with your Helical, it is very straightforward. I just spam Spites on a Crusader Helical Ring until I hit 2 or 3 good resistances, right? So tier 2 or upwards or tier 3 upwards, whatever you need. And then you craft on all attributes, or if a prefix is open, minus mana cost. And for the Simplex Ami, Spicy Sushi made a video all about it. Just to warn you, this is absolutely cancerous. This craft sucks. There's a reason people pay, I don't know, 50 divines extra to what it costs to craft it, or maybe even more. It is a long procedure, so unless you're in for a challenge or whatever, yeah. Just to give you a perspective how annoying this craft is, I usually craft all my items on every single build. This one I just didn't want to do, so I just bought it. But yeah, that's about all I got. Hope this was at least a little bit helpful, could give you a little bit of guidance. And yeah, the build has been amazing so far. Now that I have the Mage Blood set up, I'm very happy with what I put together. And yeah, we'll see what comes. Maybe I have another build in me. I'll have to refarm a little bit of currency. I don't think I want to sell the gear of this. I kind of just want to keep it. But yeah, with that being said, since I still have a slogan, see you next time.